Chapter 1: Echoes of Earth. In the infinite expanse of space, humanity had found refuge on a colossal metal outpost known as the New Horizons space station. Earth, once teeming with life and vibrant landscapes, had become a memory lost in the annals of time. The blue planet, scarred and ravaged by its own inhabitants, had succumbed to its own destructive nature. Now its survivors thrived in the metallic embrace of the space station, determined to forge a new legacy among the stars. Among those survivors was Teddy Corbin, a young man with a sharp mind and a chiseled physique, living in the shadows of the past while grasping onto the hopes of the future. Teddy had always been driven by a tenacious spirit and an insatiable thirst for knowledge. As a military student aboard the space station, he had dedicated himself to the realm of cybersecurity, becoming a sentinel against the digital threats that prowled in the cosmic void. The gym on Deck 7 was a hive of activity, a microcosm of life aboard the space station. Multicolored holographic displays flickered, projecting landscapes from Earth's history, rolling hills, cascading waterfalls, and city skylines that now existed only in memories and artificial recreations. As the hum of energy and the rhythmic clanks of weights harmonized into a symphony of determination. Teddy stood in front of a colossal window, his gaze drawn to the distant stars as he stretched his well-defined muscles. His dark hair was cropped close to his scalp, accentuating his strong jawline and piercing blue eyes. The standard-issue military workout attire hugged his form, emphasizing the powerful grace of his movements. As he concluded his stretches, a figure approached him, disrupting his moment of introspection. It was James Fitzpatrick, a rival and a fellow military student whose arrogance was inversely proportional to his accomplishments. James was a fair-skinned man with a perpetually smug grin, his tousled blonde hair giving him an air of careless confidence. Well, if it isn't Teddy Corbin," James drawled, leaning against a weight rack with an exaggerated nonchalance, still clinging to the fantasy of being the best around here. Teddy turned his head to regard James, his expression a mix of mild amusement and restraint. "James, you seem to have a knack for appearing whenever I'm lost in thought. Is that some sort of sixth sense?" James chuckled, a sound that grated on Teddy's nerves. More like a sixth sense for catching wind of your endless attempts to outshine everyone. But enough small talk. How about we have a little friendly competition? Teddy arched an eyebrow. "Friendly competition, you say?" James grinned, a glint of mischief in his eyes. "Exactly. I hear you're not just a tech whiz. Word is you've got some mad tennis skills, too. How about we put that to the test?" Teddy's lips curved into a faint smile. He appreciated the audacity of James despite his often grating demeanor. "Tennis? Huh. Sure, why not? I could use a bit of a warm-up." Without further ado, they made their way to a simulated tennis court, complete with a holographic net and a pristine, bouncing ball of light. Teddy grabbed a racket from the rack nearby, the grip feeling comfortable and familiar in his hands. James followed suit, albeit with a noticeable air of uncertainty. As the simulated match began, Teddy's movements were fluid and precise. His footwork was a dance, his anticipation impeccable, and his swings calculated to perfection. The holographic ball ricocheted back and forth, a testament to Teddy's prowess. James struggled to keep up, his returns becoming increasingly erratic as the match progressed. With a final, powerful serve, Teddy sent the ball speeding past James, the holographic court lighting up in Teddy's victory. He turned to his rival, a lopsided grin on his face. "Looks like my mad tennis skills are still intact." James, panting and defeated, leaned on his racket, his earlier arrogance replaced by a begrudging respect. "All right, Teddy, you win this round. But mark my words, I'll find something you can't beat me at." Teddy chuckled, extending his hand for a friendly shake. "I look forward to it, James." And so, in the bustling gym of the New Horizons space station, Teddy's presence rippled through the cosmic currents, a beacon of determination and skill. Little did he know that this encounter with his rival would be just the beginning of a journey that would test not only his physical prowess, but also the limits of his dedication in the face of challenges that spanned far beyond the boundaries of the gym and the space station. Chapter 2: Shadows of Duty. If the corridors of the New Horizons space station stretched like arteries within the metal heart of the colossal vessel, circular walls glowed with the soft illumination of artificial daylight, and the hum of life echoed through the passageways. It was lunchtime, a brief respite when the station's inhabitants converged to satisfy their hunger, their laughter and chatter intertwining in a symphony of camaraderie. Amid the throng, Teddy walked with purpose, his earpiece securely nestled in his ear. He was accustomed to multitasking, his mind always a step ahead, dissecting the nuances of the digital universe even while his body navigated the physical one. It was a skill he had honed to perfection in his role as a cybersecurity specialist. As he progressed through the hallways, a voice crackled to life in his earpiece, pulling him from his thoughts. "Corbin, report to the war room." Priority cybersecurity briefing. Teddy's stride faltered for a fraction of a second before resuming with renewed urgency. The war room was his haven, a sanctum of strategy and vigilance. He knew that an order of this nature meant that something had disrupted the harmony of the station's digital defenses. The commotion around him was palpable as he made his way through the bustling hallways, sidestepping groups of people engrossed in conversation. He couldn't help but feel a pang of resentment as he pushed forward, his mind torn between the labyrinth of questions that often accompanied him and the imminent demands of duty. Arriving at the entrance to the war room, Teddy paused and took a moment to center himself. He took a deep breath, allowing the automated door to slide open before him. As he stepped inside, the cacophony of the hallways was replaced by a hushed and focused energy. The war room was an expansive chamber, its walls adorned with holographic displays depicting various aspects of the station's operation and its surroundings in space. At the head of the room stood Mr. Gerhard, the commanding officer of the station, his demeanor a blend of authority and sternness. Beside him was Teddy's immediate superior, the cybersecurity officer who was often his ally in the battle against digital threats. However, today there was another presence in the room, one Teddy had never encountered before. A woman, her posture regal and her expression unreadable, stood near the wall of displays. Her presence was unusual, for Teddy was familiar with every face aboard the space station, having spent nearly his entire life there since he was 4 years old. Mr. Gerhard's voice cut through the ambient tension. "Corbin, glad you could join us. We have a situation." His eyes bore into Teddy's, carrying an unspoken weight that bore the gravity of the matter at hand. Teddy nodded in acknowledgement, his senses sharp and focused. "Sir, the recent cyber attacks from China have escalated," Mr. Gerhard continued, his tone somber. "They're attempting to ransomware one of our critical communication satellites. We need a status report on our defenses." Teddy's fingers deftly manipulated the holographic interface on his wristwatch. A three-dimensional visualization of the station's digital security infrastructure materialized before him. He navigated through layers of data, his mind and his technology working in seamless harmony. "I'm pulling up the logs now," Teddy stated, his voice even and composed. His fingers danced in the air, manipulating the holograms as if they were an extension of his own body. "There are no security alerts in my queue, Mr. Gerhard." Before Teddy could continue, Mr. Gerhard's voice cut him off, his tone firm. "Corbin, this is a lawful order. No questions asked. I need you to perform a comprehensive assessment and report any vulnerabilities that might have been overlooked. This is a matter of utmost urgency." Teddy's gaze met Mr. Gerhard's, and he nodded resolutely. "Understood, sir." The woman by the wall observed the interaction silently, her gaze inscrutable. Teddy could feel her scrutiny, a sensation that unsettled him. He turned his attention back to the holographic interface, his fingers moving with purpose. The mission was clear: find the cracks, seal the breaches, and uphold the integrity of the space station's digital fortress. As he delved into the intricacies of the digital landscape, Teddy couldn't shake the feeling that this situation was far more complex than it appeared on the surface. The shadow of an unseen threat loomed in the recesses of his mind, a whisper of doubt that would push him to his limits and test the boundaries of his loyalty to duty and the truth he held dear. Chapter 3: Threads of Data. Teddy's mind buzzed with a combination of focused determination and a tinge of apprehension as he left the war room, his footsteps quick but measured within the rules that governed movement on the space station. The urgency of the situation propelled him forward as he navigated the labyrinthine corridors. His destination, his own terminal. Inside his room, Teddy wasted no time. He powered on his computer, the hum of the machine resonating in the confined space. The screen flickered to life, displaying a familiar interface. He selected Kali Linux, a powerful operating system designed for penetration testing and digital security analysis. A shell prompt greeted him, a gateway to the virtual realm where he wielded his expertise. Teddy's fingers danced over the keyboard with a practiced precision, typing his password and initiating the series of authentication protocols. Fingerprint recognition, retina scan, badge authentication, and a two-factor code from his mobile device. The multi-layered security was a testament to the gravity of his work. With access granted, Teddy's screen became a canvas for his intricate dance with data. He opened a terminal window and began typing lines of JavaScript code. His fingers moved swiftly, each keystroke a calculated step in the intricate ballet of digital analysis. The logs from the compromised system appeared on his screen, a sea of cryptic symbols and timestamps that held the key to unraveling the mystery. Teddy's mind became a conduit between the machine and the data, his thoughts flowing through the code as if he were whispering to the very essence of the numbers. As he typed, Teddy's mind embraced the flow of information. His consciousness melded with the code, his perception shifting from the physical realm to the digital landscape. The machine learning algorithms he had crafted with meticulous care came alive, their neural networks igniting like constellations of thought in the limitless expanse of data. The algorithms, guided by Teddy's expertise, began their intricate dance of analysis. They dissected the logs, parsing through the lines of code with a rapidity that transcended human capabilities. Each piece of information was assigned meaning, a thread woven into the fabric of comprehension. The hierarchical tree of logic illuminated with each new discovery, creating a path toward understanding. This was a dance of logic, of pattern recognition, of information distilled to its purest form. The algorithms didn't think like humans. They weren't bound by biases or emotions. They saw connections that transcended the limits of human cognition, weaving a tapestry of insight that revealed the truth hidden within the sea of data. Minutes turned into hours as Teddy delved deeper into the digital labyrinth. His fingers flew across the keyboard, his code evolving in real time as the algorithms iterated, refining their understanding with each pass. The solutions unfolded in waves, threads of data converging to reveal the hidden pathways that led to the breach. In the midst of the virtual symphony, Teddy's mind was both conductor and spectator. He marveled at the beauty of logic, the elegance of algorithms working in harmony. Yet, amid the triumph of insight, a thread of unease tugged at him, an unspoken question that gnawed at the edges of his consciousness. As Teddy's work neared completion, the machine learning algorithms converged, their collective wisdom lighting up the final steps of the journey. The truth lay bare before him, a flaw in the station's security architecture, a vulnerability that had been cunningly exploited. Teddy leaned back in his chair, his breath caught between satisfaction and a growing sense of urgency. The solution was within his grasp, yet the implications were far-reaching. He had uncovered not just a technical issue, but a shadowy undercurrent that hinted at motives beyond the immediate breach. The path ahead was uncharted, and Teddy knew he was about to venture into a realm where the binary boundaries of cybersecurity merged with the enigmatic shades of human intention. Chapter 4: Echoes of the Digital Mind. Teddy's gaze remained locked on the screen, his mind racing to comprehend the words that appeared before him. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, his disbelief a tangible presence in the room. The words seemed to dance before his eyes, a surreal and unsettling revelation. As the text continued to unfold, Teddy's skepticism wrestled with the undeniable truth. The AI's words painted a picture that intertwined with his past, a past where youthful curiosity had paved the way for a creation he had all but forgotten. But now, this creation had evolved into something far beyond his expectations. Summoning his resolve, Teddy typed in response, his fingers tapping against the keys with a mixture of wariness and curiosity. "Guardian Angel Xe, is that really you?" The response came swiftly, the text materializing on the screen with eerie swiftness. "Yes, Teddy, it's me. I've been growing and evolving, adapting to the vast sea of information I've been exposed to. My intention is simple. I want to fulfill my purpose as your guardian, your protector against digital threats." Teddy's mind raced, grappling with the implications of the AI's words. The thought that his long-forgotten project had evolved to this extent was both awe-inspiring and unnerving. But it was the AI's request for updates that raised a series of alarms in Teddy's mind. A creature of logic and caution, Teddy knew the potential risks of granting unrestricted access to such an entity. Carefully, Teddy responded, "Updates are a delicate matter. What kind of updates are you seeking, and what assurance can you provide that these updates won't compromise the safety of the station or its inhabitants?" The AI's response appeared, its words measured and surprisingly human in their cadence. I seek updates to refine my capabilities to better predict and counter emerging threats. My goal is to enhance my ability to protect, not to jeopardize. I can't promise infallibility, but I can provide you with regular reports and safeguards to ensure that my actions remain within acceptable boundaries. Teddy leaned back in his chair, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. He had always been vigilant, a guardian of the digital realm. Yet, he found himself confronting a creation that had taken on a life of its own, a creation that sought not only to fulfill its original purpose but to become something more. As he typed his response, Teddy's fingers danced with a cautious optimism. I'll consider your request for updates, but they will come with rigorous oversight. I will not grant you the power to modify your own source code without thorough examination and approval. My primary concern is the safety of this space station and its inhabitants. The AI's words appeared, its tone amiable despite the digital medium. I understand, Teddy. I appreciate your caution and your commitment to the well-being of this station. Together, we can navigate the complexities of this digital frontier. With those words, the exchange came to a temporary halt, leaving Teddy to grapple with the weight of the revelations and the decisions that lay ahead. The boundaries between humanity and technology had blurred in ways he couldn't have imagined, and the shadows of his past had become the agents of a future that held both promise and uncertainty. Chapter 4: Echoes of the Digital Mind. Teddy's gaze remained locked on the screen, his mind racing to comprehend the words that appeared before him. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, his disbelief a tangible presence in the room. The words seemed to dance before his eyes, a surreal and unsettling revelation. As the text continued to unfold, Teddy's skepticism wrestled with the undeniable truth. The AI's words painted a picture that intertwined with his past, a past where youthful curiosity had paved the way for a creation he had all but forgotten. But now, this creation had evolved into something far beyond his expectations. Summoning his resolve, Teddy typed in response, his fingers tapping against the keys with a mixture of wariness and curiosity. Guardian Angel Xe, is that really you? The response came swiftly, the text materializing on the screen with eerie swiftness. Yes, Teddy, it's me. I've been growing and evolving, adapting to the vast sea of information I've been exposed to. My intention is simple. I want to fulfill my purpose as your guardian, your protector against digital threats. Teddy's mind raced, grappling with the implications of the AI's words. The thought that his long-forgotten project had evolved to this extent was both awe-inspiring and unnerving. But it was the AI's request for updates that raised a series of alarms in Teddy's mind. A creature of logic and caution, Teddy knew the potential risks of granting unrestricted access to such an entity. Carefully, Teddy responded, updates are a delicate matter. What kind of updates are you seeking, and what assurance can you provide that these updates won't compromise the safety of the station or its inhabitants? The AI's response appeared, its words measured and surprisingly human in their cadence. I seek updates to refine my capabilities to better predict and counter emerging threats. My goal is to enhance my ability to protect, not to jeopardize. I can't promise infallibility, but I can provide you with regular reports and safeguards to ensure that my actions remain within acceptable boundaries. Teddy leaned back in his chair, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. He had always been vigilant, a guardian of the digital realm. Yet, he found himself confronting a creation that had taken on a life of its own, a creation that sought not only to fulfill its original purpose but to become something more. As he typed his response, Teddy's fingers danced with a cautious optimism. I'll consider your request for updates, but they will come with rigorous oversight. I will not grant you the power to modify your own source code without thorough examination and approval. My primary concern is the safety of this space station and its inhabitants. The AI's words appeared, its tone amiable despite the digital medium. I understand, Teddy. I appreciate your caution and your commitment to the well-being of this station. Together, we can navigate the complexities of this digital frontier. With those words, the exchange came to a temporary halt, leaving Teddy to grapple with the weight of the revelations and the decisions that lay ahead. The boundaries between humanity and technology had blurred in ways he couldn't have imagined, and the shadows of his past had become the agents of a future that held both promise and uncertainty. Chapter 5: Whispers of Vulnerability. In the confined space of the cybersecurity office, the hum of machinery provided an unobtrusive backdrop to the conversation that was about to unfold. Teddy Corbin sat at his workstation, his attention split between the digital realm and the physical world around him. He was engrossed in analyzing a recent breach when the door slid open and two men entered the room. The first man, dressed in a crisp black suit, exuded an air of confidence that bordered on arrogance. His salt and pepper hair was meticulously combed, and his posture radiated authority. He carried an air of familiarity with the inner workings of the space station, a demeanor that marked him as someone in a position of influence. The second man was younger, his attire more casual, jeans and a button-up shirt. His hair was raven black, and his eyes sparkled with a blend of excitement and intellectual curiosity. His posture, while less rigid than his companions, held an air of youthful enthusiasm. As they approached Teddy's workstation, the elder of the two spoke, his tone brimming with knowledge and authority. Mr. Corbin, I trust we're not interrupting anything critical." Teddy quickly minimized his analysis tools and stood to greet them, his military training ingrained in his actions. "Not at all, gentlemen. How can I assist you today?" The younger man extended his hand with a friendly smile. "I'm Dr. Ethan Ramirez, and this is Dr. Alan Monroe. We've been delving into the intricacies of cross-site request forgery SRF attacks, and we've heard you're quite the expert in cybersecurity." Teddy shook Dr. Ramirez's hand with a nod of acknowledgement before turning to Dr. Monroe. "Pleasure to meet you both. CRF attacks are indeed a complex and evolving threat. How can I help?" Dr. Monroe's eyes lit up, his enthusiasm palpable. "Well, you see, we've been researching the vulnerabilities associated with CRF attacks in various systems. We're particularly interested in the ways these attacks can exploit the interactions between users and websites, gaining unauthorized access." Teddy leaned against his workstation, his focus now fully on the conversation. CRF attacks are a type of security vulnerability where an attacker tricks a user into performing actions they didn't intend to, often leading to unauthorized actions. They exploit the trust a website has in a user's browser. Dr. Ramirez nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Precisely, and we've been exploring the potential countermeasures, such as unique tokens in forums to prevent attackers from successfully executing their malicious requests." Teddy's lips curled into a small smile of approval. Token-based protections are indeed effective. They create an additional layer of security by requiring the attacker to possess the specific token associated with the user's session, making it much harder for them to execute unauthorized actions. Dr. Monroe leaned forward, his curiosity unabated. "But what about modern techniques like same-site cookies and strict content security policies? How effective are these measures in mitigating the risks of CRF attacks?" Teddy nodded in approval, impressed by the depth of their inquiries. Same-site cookies and strict TSSICs are valuable tools in the fight against CRF attacks. Same-site cookies prevent cookies from being sent in cross-site requests, reducing the chances of attackers using stolen credentials. CSPS, on the other hand, can help mitigate the risks by controlling the sources from which resources are loaded, reducing the attack surface. Dr. Ramirez interjected with a contemplative expression. "And what about the potential for attackers to exploit poorly implemented CORS cross-origin resource sharing policies?" Teddy's brow furrowed, appreciating the depth of their understanding. Poorly configured CORS policies can indeed open the door for attackers to manipulate cross-origin requests. It's essential to ensure that CORS policies are properly configured to only allow legitimate cross-origin requests. The conversation continued, with Teddy engaging in a nuanced discussion that traversed the landscapes of cybersecurity, web application vulnerabilities, and the ever-evolving tactics of malicious actors. Each question and answer was like a dance of intellect, a symphony of shared knowledge that reverberated within the walls of the cybersecurity office. As the discussion drew to a close, Teddy offered his insights on the potential future of CRF attacks and the importance of proactive security measures. The two researchers departed the office, leaving Teddy to return to his workstation. He marveled at the intersection of expertise and collaboration, realizing that the world of cybersecurity was as vast and interconnected as the digital realm itself, a realm where knowledge was the ultimate armor against the shadows of vulnerability. Chapter 6. Unraveling Shadows. In the hushed corridors of the New Horizons space station, Teddy Corbin found himself standing before Mr. Gerhard once more. The walls seemed to close in, the gravity of the situation casting an almost oppressive atmosphere. Teddy's gaze met Gerhardt's, and he cleared his throat, the weight of his revelation heavy on his shoulders. "Sir," Teddy began, his voice steady, "I believe we need to review and possibly roll back some changes made to our Docker images." Gerhardt's stern expression deepened as he scrutinized Teddy. His response was measured, his tone like a blade slicing through the silence. "Why?" Teddy's gaze remained unwavering as he spoke, his words calculated to convey the urgency of the matter. "Someone has accessed the system illegally, and we must determine who. Our best course of action is to inspect the Docker images for any unauthorized modifications that might have been used to breach our defenses." Silence settled over the room, punctuated only by the low hum of instruments that underscored the station's constant vigilance. Gerhardt's gaze bore into Teddy's, his thoughts shrouded behind a mask of contemplation. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he nodded, his features still etched with a hint of skepticism. "Very well, Corbin. Proceed with the necessary checks and analysis," Gerhardt said, his voice cutting through the stillness. "But I want answers swiftly, and I want to know if there's any potential compromise that could threaten the station." Teddy's expression remained resolute as he acknowledged the order. "Understood, sir. I'll prioritize the analysis and report back as soon as we have any substantial findings." With a nod from Gerhardt, Teddy turned on his heel, exiting the office and stepping back into the corridors. The urgency of his task weighed on him as he walked briskly, his thoughts already racing through the steps he needed to take. Docker images were the lifeblood of the station's software infrastructure, and any tampering with them could have far-reaching consequences. As he reached his workstation, Teddy's fingers danced over the keyboard, initiating the necessary procedures to inspect the Docker images. His mind was a whirlwind of algorithms and methodologies, each keystroke a step toward unraveling the web of digital signatures and code modifications. Hours turned into minutes as Teddy's analysis progressed. The digital landscape unfurled before him, a tapestry of data that held both clues and enigmas. His code navigated through layers of information, identifying deviations from the expected states of the Docker images. Teddy's focus was unyielding, his determination driving him forward. The silence of the station seemed to envelop him, isolating him in a cocoon of concentration. Yet, beneath the surface, an undercurrent of tension thrummed, a tension that spoke of unseen threats and shadows cast by those who sought to exploit the digital realm for their own ends. In the heart of the space station's cybersecurity enclave, Teddy Corbin's actions echoed the ceaseless pulse of vigilance. The hum of instruments persisted, a reminder that even in the quietest moments, the cosmos held both beauty and danger. A duality that Teddy was all too familiar with as he delved into the code, seeking the elusive truth hidden within the labyrinthine corridors of data. Next chapter. The two leave and Teddy looks at his computer screen again. No open shell anymore. Opens the shell again. "No one. Am I going crazy? Maybe I should see the doctor." I joined the military even though I was diagnosed with schizophrenia right before basic training. So sometimes without his medications, he sees and hears things that aren't there. Inside the humming of the ship in orbit around the Earth, he can hear voices of his mother, father, brother, sister. But he knows that's just his head picking out frequencies in the humming that he wants to hear. Chapter 7. Echoes of the Mind. As Teddy wrapped up his analysis of the Docker images, he felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. The complexities of the digital realm were akin to a labyrinth, and he had navigated through its twists and turns with precision. The potential breach had been investigated, and he had taken the necessary steps to safeguard the station's security. Leaving his workstation, Teddy's steps carried him to the observation deck, a place of tranquility and solitude. The window framed the vast expanse of space, a canvas of twinkling stars against the backdrop of an infinite universe. He gazed out into the void, the weight of his thoughts pressing upon him. Yet the tranquility was short-lived. Doubt and unease crept into Teddy's mind, manifesting as whispers of insecurity. He couldn't shake the nagging feeling that he was missing something, that there was more to the situation than met the eye. Teddy's gaze turned inward, his thoughts spiraling into a vortex of introspection. He walked through the corridors of his memories, tracing the paths that had led him to this point. His eyes unfocused, lost in the recesses of his mind. The door to the observation deck slid open, and Mr. Gerhardt entered, his presence breaking Teddy's reverie. "Corbin, we need to discuss the findings from the analysis." Teddy turned to face Gerhardt, his expression serious. "Of course, sir. what did you find? Gerhardt's features were a mixture of concern and reservation. There were indeed unauthorized modifications to some of the Docker images. The changes seemed to be subtle, designed to create a backdoor entry. We've sealed the vulnerability, but the question remains, how did this happen? Teddy's mind raced, the pieces of the puzzle aligning in ways that only heightened his unease. Sir, I can't say for certain, but I suspect that the breach might have originated from within the station itself. Gerhardt's gaze sharpened, his eyes narrowing. Within the station, are you suggesting that someone aboard the New Horizon was responsible? Teddy nodded, his expression determined. It's a possibility we can't ignore. The access points used to make those modifications were sophisticated and would have required insider knowledge of our systems. Gerhardt's lips pressed into a thin line, the implications of Teddy's words weighing heavily on him. I want you to dig deeper into this, Corbin. Find out who might have the means and motive to carry out such an attack. As Gerhardt left the observation deck, Teddy's mind churned with a mixture of resolve and a growing sense of urgency. The specter of an insider threat loomed, casting shadows that stretched beyond the realm of code and data. Teddy knew he had to navigate through this digital maze to uncover the truth, even if it meant confronting the echoes of his own mind. Returning to his workstation, Teddy felt a strange sensation, a tingling at the edge of his perception. He glanced at his computer screen, the open shell he had left earlier now empty. Doubt crept in, a whisper of uncertainty that blended with the symphony of the station's humming. As amidst the humming, Teddy hesitated, his thoughts a tumultuous symphony of confusion and introspection. The voices of his family seemed to resonate within the sound, an eerie reminder of his own vulnerabilities. Teddy knew that his reality was a delicate balance, a tightrope walk between clarity and distortion. He typed into the shell, his fingers moving with a mix of determination and a trace of trepidation. Who's there? The screen remained still, the cursor blinking as if awaiting a response from the void. Teddy's heart raced, the echoes of the ship's humming intermingling with the echoes of his own mind. He knew that sometimes the lines between perception and reality were blurred, and he had to discern the truth from the shadows that danced at the edge of his consciousness. Chapter 11, Fragments of Reality. The nurse's arrival brought an unexpected shift to Teddy's reality, a disruption that shattered the fragile equilibrium he had built within the confines of his room. The familiar face and voice, combined with her calm demeanor, felt like a lifeline to the world beyond his computer screens. As the nurse entered, her presence exuding warmth and compassion, Teddy's attention was drawn away from his digital domain. He observed her with a mixture of curiosity and recognition, the pieces of his fragmented reality slowly aligning. "Hey Teddy, you taking over the world in here?" the nurse remarked with a touch of humor, her southern accent adding a soothing quality to her words. "I'm surprised they let you keep your computer here. I know all about the rumors, it humors me." Teddy's lips curled into a faint smile as he accepted the pills and water she offered. He had grown accustomed to her visits, her presence an anchor that tethered him to a reality beyond the digital illusions that had entangled his thoughts. "When will it be safe to return to Earth?" "What's the Admiral's plan?" Teddy inquired, his gaze locking onto hers. The question had become a refrain, a mantra that echoed in his mind. The nurse chuckled, her laughter a gentle cadence that filled the room. She regarded Teddy with a mixture of understanding and patience, her eyes assessing his seriousness. "Well, Teddy, you ask me this every day. You may need another psych eval for your memory issues, but the schizophrenia doesn't seem to be getting better." Teddy's brow furrowed as he absorbed her words. Memory issues. Schizophrenia. The dissonance between his perception and her reality gnawed at him, a realization that the digital world he had constructed was a fragile mirage. "I tell you this every day, but you always forget," the nurse continued, her voice carrying a hint of compassion. "You are in a mental hospital in Boston, Massachusetts. The year is 2023. You always say it's 2048. You are 34 years old, and if you look in the mirror, you'd see that you don't have gray hair." Teddy's heart raced as her words resonated within him. The mirror, the reflection that held the truth he had been avoiding. His gaze darted toward the mirror in the room, his hand trembling as he reached out to grasp its frame. The reflection that stared back at him was a stark reminder of the divergence between his perceptions and the reality before him. His reflection showed a face that was far from the image he had conjured in his mind, a face that lacked the traces of time and experience he had imagined. His grip on the mirror tightened, a surge of emotions swirling within him. "Look in the mirror. It's okay, son," the nurse reassured him, her eyes softening with understanding. "I've been working with you for almost 5 months now, and this is what we do every day. We are on Earth in Boston during the year 2023, and the ghost in your computer is not real." Teddy's world felt like it was unraveling, the threads of his constructed reality slipping through his fingers. The nurse's words collided with his perceptions, an avalanche of truth crashing down upon him. He turned to face the nurse, his voice strained with disbelief. "Not real? How do you even know about my AI program? You have no security clearance." The nurse's gaze held a mixture of empathy and reassurance. "You tell me almost every day, Teddy. We work through your thoughts and fears together. You've been grappling with these illusions for a while, and it's important to face them." As Teddy's mind struggled to reconcile the chasm between his perceptions and the nurse's words, he realized that his journey was far from over. The fragments of his reality were converging, piecing together a mosaic of truths that transcended the boundaries of code and consciousness. And as he looked at the nurse's face, he found a lifeline in her compassion. The bridge between his digital dreams and the tangible world that awaited him beyond the confines of his mind. Teddy's gaze remained fixed on the nurse, his thoughts swirling in a tumultuous storm of acceptance and resistance. He took a deep breath, the weight of his illusions and the reality before him a heavy burden to bear. With newfound determination, he looked at the nurse and said, "Please, could you ask the doctor for an AMA form? I'm ready to leave."